So, AI agents, they're amazing, right? But let's be real, if you've actually tried to build with them, you know they can be, well, a bit chaotic. That's what we're tackling today. We're going to pull back the curtain and show you how to bring some serious structure and reliability to your agents using these proven workflow patterns. Think of this as your playbook for leveling up from a cool demo to something you can actually use in production.
And yeah, that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? It's what we could call the agent's dilemma. You've got this incredibly powerful autonomous thing. How do you point it at a complex goal and trust it'll get there? How do you make it predictable, reliable, without, killing the magic? That's the puzzle we're going to solve right now.
So let's break this down. What are we really talking about here? On one side, you've got a fully autonomous agent. It's calling all the shots, which tools to use, what to do first, the whole shebang. But a workflow, that's different. It's like it provides guardrails. You set the overall path, you define the stages, but you still let the agent be smart inside each of those stages. It's not about killing its autonomy, it's about channeling it.
And this whole idea is actually super intuitive when you think about it. There's this great analogy of a manufacturing assembly line. Picture it, each station has a super skilled worker, right? They're making smart decisions about their one specific job. But the bigger picture, the order of the stations, that was all designed up front. And that's exactly what we're doing with agent workflows.
Okay, so how do we actually build this assembly line for our agents? Well, it turns out you don't need 1,000 different blueprints. In fact, most of what you'll see out in the wild, in real production systems, boils down to just 3 core patterns. These are your essential building blocks: sequential, parallel, and the evaluator-optimizer. Let's dive into each one.
All right, this table right here, this is your cheat sheet, your roadmap for everything we're about to cover. It tells you what problem each pattern solves, the best time to use it, and, this is key, the trade-offs you're making. Things like speed versus cost versus how good the final result is. We're going to go deep on all 3, so keep this mental map handy.
First up, we've got the most straightforward one of the bunch: sequential workflows. This is your classic A, then B, then C. Think of it like dominoes. One agent does its thing, makes its smart decisions, and then hands off its work to the next agent in line. It's super clear, super linear, and every step depends on the one that just happened.
So when would you actually use this? Easy. Anytime you have clear dependencies. A perfect example is writing marketing copy and then translating it. You can't start the translation until the copy is finished, right? It's also awesome for things like data transformation pipelines or any process that looks like draft, then review, then polish. You might give up a little speed, but you usually get much better quality.
Now, here's a killer pro tip for you. Before you go and build out this big, complex, multi-step thing, just try giving the entire task to a single agent in one prompt. Seriously, if that works, you're done. You've solved your problem with basically 0 extra engineering. Only, and I mean only, split it into a workflow if that single agent just can't handle it reliably. Always, always start simple.
Okay, let's switch gears. What happens if your tasks don't need to happen one after the other? What if they're totally independent? Well, that's where our second pattern, parallel workflows, comes into play. Forget the single file line. Now we're talking about a multi-lane superhighway. You fire off a bunch of different tasks to different agents, they all work at the exact same time, and then you just gather up all the results at the finish line.
This pattern is all about 2 things: speed and specialization. Let's say you're analyzing a document. You could have one agent pull out the main themes, another agent check the sentiment, and a third one fact-check everything, all happening at once. Bam! It's also a game changer for stuff like code reviews. Imagine having multiple specialist agents looking for different kinds of bugs at the same time.
But, and this is a big but, parallel workflows have a catch. This leads to a really crucial pro tip. Getting a bunch of answers back is great, but what do you do with them, especially if they don't agree? You absolutely must figure out your aggregation strategy before you start. Are you going to go with the majority vote? Average some scores. Let a specialist agent have the final say. You need to have a plan for this before you write a single line of code.
All right, on to our third and final pattern. This one is for when good enough just isn't good enough. It's the evaluator-optimizer workflow. Think of it like a writer and a really tough editor. You've got one agent, the generator, that creates something. Then a second agent, the evaluator, comes in, inspects the work against the checklist, and gives feedback. The first agent takes that feedback, makes it better, and the whole loop starts again.
So, why would you go through all this trouble? Because sometimes the first draft is just not going to cut it. Think about generating code that has to pass really strict security standards, or writing a customer service email where the tone has to be absolutely perfect.
The secret sauce here is having super clear, measurable criteria that editor agent can use to judge the work.
And this leads me to maybe the single most important tip for this pattern. Please, please know when to stop. If you don't set clear stopping criteria like, say, stop after 3 tries or stop when it gets a 95% score, you are risking an expensive, endless loop. The agents will just go back and forth, making tiny little changes that don't really matter. You have to define what good enough looks like up front.
Okay, so we've covered the 3 big patterns: sequential, parallel, and evaluator-optimizer. Now for the fun part, the really practical stuff. How do you actually pick the right one for your project? Let's walk through a super simple decision-making framework.
Question number 1, and you should always start here, is the simplest one. Can a single agent just handle this? If the answer is yes, stop. You're done. Don't build a workflow you don't need. The simplest solution is almost always the right place to begin.
Okay, so let's say a single agent isn't cutting it. The next question to ask is, does step B absolutely need the result from step A to even start? If the answer is yes, you've got clear dependencies. The choice is easy. You're looking at a sequential workflow. But what if that's not the case? What if the different parts of the job can be done on their own? And what if getting it done fast is your top priority? If you can split the work up and doing it all at once will save you a ton of time, then you should definitely be looking at a parallel workflow.
And last but not least, what if your main problem is that the first attempt just isn't high enough quality? Ask yourself, would this get a lot better if it went through a round or 2 of feedback? If the answer is a big yes, and you know exactly how to measure better, then the evaluator-optimizer pattern is going to be your best friend.
And hey, don't forget, these patterns aren't an either-or choice. You can totally mix and match them as your projects get more complex. Think of them like Legos. You could have a big sequential workflow, but one of those steps could actually be a whole parallel process to speed things up, and another step could be an evaluator loop to nail the quality. They're just building blocks.
All right, let's bring it all home. What's the big takeaway here? What's the philosophy that should guide you when you start building this stuff? It's really simple. Start simple and then evolve smart. Here's the most important advice I can give you. Do not add complexity just for the sake of it. Don't build a parallel workflow just because it sounds cool, and for goodness sake, don't add an evaluator loop if the first draft is already getting the job done. Your goal is to match the complexity of your solution to the real needs of the task, nothing more. So there you have it. You now understand the 3 core patterns and, just as important, you have a framework for choosing the right one. This is a seriously powerful playbook for building agents that are more robust, more reliable, and way more sophisticated. So the only question left is, what are you going to build?